There is a lot wrong in this. So much so that this will not be worth my time to explain all of it, but that's irrelevant because I'm in too deep and the show just keeps getting worse and worse as it goes along. But Season 3 takes a turn for the worse and in a dramatic way. All of the problems from the first 2 seasons are here, but the 2 problems it adds just makes every aspect of this show unbearable. The first of which is the fight scenes, which were one of maybe 2 positives the show had going for it, and they happen to be handled by some of the most inept people on the planet. People who have no clue about shot composition could easily do a better job than what has been presented here. Now, if you haven't watched my video where I compare the fights from Monty's animations and Season 3, you need to watch that because that is the best way I can convey this point to you, but I will try to do my best in this video. The first major problem with the fights is that they're just too close. It's just a rough guess, but it feels like they took all of the fights from the first 2 seasons and said they needed to be 20% zoomed in. I can't even remember how many times I've heard people talk about the action being too close, and that causes the action to not be translated properly to the audience. And I'm not sure there are even any reasonable counterarguments to that claim. I don't know if it's to hide shoddy animation, or if it's to obscure bad modeling or texturing or lighting, or if it's simply incompetence that's the culprit here, but either way, it's not how you're supposed to do this. Then we have the pacing of the fights, and it's more of the same. They cut so frequently that it's tiresome, and again, you don't need a textbook on filmmaking to tell you why frequent cuts detract from the viewing experience. The major benefit is that this is significantly less of a problem, as the cuts tend to be on the more reasonable side more often, but when you add these 2 together, it's painful to watch. But then we have the fight animation itself. Now, I could have been ignoring a lot of bad animation in the first 2 seasons because I know I did. So maybe the animation for the fight scenes have always been bad, but since from time to time I would say this fight was better than that fight, I'm going to have to assume at least some of it was good, but not here. So very little of these fight scenes are completely animated, and if I was stupid and depraved enough, I could spend hours showing each and every time they cut corners so hard to make the production a little cheaper. But that's not why we're here. We're here because RWBY is written by people who can't read or write in English. People who lack the understanding or even the artistic intention of the written word. Robots barely capable of writing exposition in the most sterile fashion possible. Which leads us to the second of the new problems, completely and utterly wasting our time. Yeah, for the first episode, I just thought this was a thing that was meant to pad out the episode for a little bit, but it turns out that this is now a planned part of the show. This pops up way too often for it not to be an actual design aspect. This joke lasts 29 seconds and is the reason I constantly say RWBY is a terribly unfunny show. I'm not even a comedian, but even I would be ashamed spending that much time and money putting such a lazy joke in a show. And if you're thinking stopping the action to dump some pointless exposition for half a minute in an episode that's only 14 minutes long isn't all that bad, maybe the next one will persuade you. To anyone who finds this nonsensical absolute stop to the action or just any progress in the episode that lasts nearly 1.5 minutes, again in an episode that only lasts 14 minutes, funny, I have to ask why. What about this do you like? Is it because it's absurd? Sure, but it's not funny. Is it because the writers were trying to make it funny? Because trying is the important word there. I just don't get it at all. Did they say we only have 10 minutes of animation and just decide to do whatever? Because even that doesn't make sense compared to what just happened. Alright, enough of the general complaints. There's more than enough compacted fecal matter to be scraped from each episode. Except for episode 2, which is nothing more than the 2 fights, which means all of the above was really for episode 2. The only other aspect of the episode is cutting back to a random bar with Crow in it, who is talking to a bartender who keeps talking about how great the fighting was. What are you watching, and why are you not watching the tournament? Because over the winter break, I was sick in bed and didn't move for 2 days. And that was a better fight than either of those. Then episode 3 starts off reasonably well with the correct understanding of how terrible those fights were.
Nor did I come here to watch my own blood fail so miserably in battle.
And then Crow comes up drunk and picks a fight, which, without thinking about it, it would seem like a well-established and understandable sequence of events. But then in just a few minutes, we have a long, drawn-out scene that brings up a lot of points as to why this petty little skirmish is extremely retarded. Mostly because what he's upset about doesn't even involve Winter at all. Before we move past another awful fight, we have 2 things to mention. First is the extremely obvious proof that the writers and creators of the show are just winging it as they go because Winter and Weiss's semblance is exactly the same thing. Meaning, the word unique is extremely hard to Google. Maybe they have apologized or at the very least openly changed their minds at some point, but since this is something I have not personally seen, it comes off a bit more arrogant than incompetent. As if they know they can do whatever they want because the fan base is willing to take anything they're willing to write into the show. I know I'm one of the show's most adamant critics, but somehow I feel offended for the fan base. Then another blatant continuity error that could have easily been circumvented happens just before we have this scene. I'm not sure why Winter didn't retort when Crow clearly did attack first, and that being said by Winter wouldn't have mattered at all, as her behavior would have still insulted Ironwood and he would have reprimanded her even if she was in the right. Then Osmond shows up and says something that is extremely stupid.
There is a sanctioned fight happening just around the corner at the Coliseum that I can assure you has better seats and popcorn.
How can the writers of this show be this stupid to ignore continuity they created in the last episode with Caboose saying, "Leave, the matches are over for today"? Some might say this is nitpicking, but outside of the continuity thing, they keep screwing with it. It's just super lazy, and it's the very reason why I keep doing these reviews. I used to think the reason there were so many people out here walking around when the fight started was because everyone was leaving the stadium and going to other places. But I guess I gave the creators too much credit, and it was just because they wanted a crowd and did not care even a little bit about narrative flow and are just focusing on the set pieces and figuring out how they intertwine later. Okay, to start off the discussion on this horrible scene, we have to talk about how they managed to screw up the only good aspect of this scene, and then we will go into the bad. So I really like this joke. It added to the character because we didn't know why he was drinking so heavily. It could have been because of the betrayal he felt, or even him just getting drunk after a long time out in the field without booze, but no, he's just a drunken bastard. But then they tarnished the joke by showing all of the characters slowly looking over towards Crow. I think we can assume that everyone was going to turn their focus towards him after that statement, so why didn't they just cut to Crow after that statement? I know humor is extremely subjective, but I can't see this going any other way, so I'm going to show you the back-to-back difference, and then you can call me a hack if you believe otherwise.
He was drunk. He's always drunk. He was drunk. He's always drunk.
To start things off, do you remember the scene from episode 2, season 2 that was oddly familiar? Because I did, and I complained about the exact same things in it as I'm about to in this scene. The same posturing that is only meant to keep the audience out of the loop instead of showing a real conversation between people. The same arguments strung together with the same whitewashing of people's positions. The same camera angles and the same ambiguity. And last but not least, the same ending to the scene in which a seemingly deep and provocative statement is made at the end, but after a few seconds of thinking about it, it becomes underwhelming. And what new information that is divulged tends to mess up the story even more, which is starting to seem impossible now. Let's start off with why the fight scene makes no sense. Crow literally says that there is no reason for Winter being there, and she is then told to leave, meaning that her position in the group is so low that when she offends a single member of that group, she is merely pushed aside and ignored in response. Meaning that the fight at the beginning of the episode conflicts with the surrounding narrative. There were only 3 reasons that could possibly be a reason for this fight, and only one of them is within the realm of rationality, and even that is rather dumb. The first is that it was just to get the group's attention, but that seems rather retarded when you consider the fact that Osmond has an office, and I'm sure it's not a secret. Now, you could argue that he needed their attention fast, but if you have all day to drink, you could do so in the man's office, which has a few monitors in it, so even viewing the tournament isn't an excuse. The second option is that he had some beef with Winter, but then nothing about the interactions with the characters or even the fighting makes that seem even remotely possible. Even him telling her to go get lost was more on the side of mild annoyance rather than any real malice. And the third is just to inform the evil trio that Crow was back at Beacon, which is likely the real reason, but this very thing could have been established by them just seeing Crow. What is the probable reason for this fight is someone on the staff thought it would be cool to have this fight, or it could have been more cynical than that and they just have a minimum amount of fights they have to get to, and this was just one of them. And then Crow gets upset that no one told him about whoever the enemy are being a known threat in Beacon, which is a little baffling to me. Now, maybe it was underplayed a lot in the media, but I'm pretty sure that people getting attacked by Grimm after the train is ran through a tunnel that busted up out of the ground in one of the largest cities in the world would probably be newsworthy. And with all of the other White Fang incidences being at least somewhat known, why wouldn't this be as well? So how did Crow not know that whoever is doing whatever they're doing had at least someone undercover at Beacon? And it's not like the tournament was the next day, so why or how did he not know about that? Damn, this scene was so troublesome. Now this is a little less important, but why does Cinder sleep in a different room than her teammates? If the tournament is based around a 4-man team, and the entire Beacon Huntsman training program is based around a 4-man team, even if the other schools are different, why wouldn't all the teams be forced to bunk together? It has nothing to do with separating the sexes because John's team lives together. Wouldn't that tip them off that they're not huntsmen because one of the groups has a significant difference in how it operates with a much older person at the lead? Okay, so the fight in the 4th episode was a lot better, but that's mostly due to the longer bits of animation that was uncut, and it was in fact zoomed out some. But that just means we've gone back to the status quo, but I'm giving credit to where credit is due. That was until Winter says that the sneeze, and only the sneeze semblance, is hereditary, and that they also have a super secret power. First, you haven't even established order yet in a manner that can be meaningfully understood outside of video game life bar, which brings more questions to the table than it answers. So why are you establishing new rules to your energy and power system that are nothing more than exceptions to already established rules, and then say there's more to it, but since we have no idea how any semblance works, much less the extremely more complicated one that Weiss has, why not keep adding to it?
Funny, because I heard Vale suffered a grim attack after you almost managed to stop a train.
Oh, fuck you. He knew about the event and even knew about the specifics of it, and he's upset about not being informed on the matter. Other than the obvious of who the infiltrators are and exactly how compromised their computer systems happen to be, which they should know by now, what exactly do you need to know more than you already do? And you noticed how messed up Yang was when she saw the picture. Maybe have a talk with her, after apparently she didn't have that meeting with her mother. Okay, I take back what I just said. That was worse. That was so much worse because at least they were trying to be funny. That was just sad.
Penny, you two were incredible out there.
Why? How many times are people going to talk about how great that last fight was when each and every time it's brought up it was worse than the last? I know I'm harping on this, but this isn't a slight drop in animation quality or even just a continued and constant amount of underwhelming animation. It's a significant drop in quality. I'm not sure what's worse, people getting excited and putting passion behind the discussion of these fights or the fights themselves. This is the same as someone desperately and emphatically trying to sell me a literal piece of shit with tons of showmanship and charisma, and yet they've done nothing to hide the fact that it's nothing more than a piece of shit on a styrofoam plate. And all I have to do to reconfirm that fact is simply roll my eyes in its direction. I was just about to praise the humor in this episode because every one of the jokes so far did make me laugh. I replayed the one with Penny crushing RWBY 15 times because I just love that noise. But then the joke right after the Weiss joke was just painful, and they even laugh at that joke. Damn, I was just starting to let go and enjoy this episode, and then you had to rub my face in the shit you just tried to sell me. My god. I complained about a bad joke. Who could have possibly known the depths that this awful show could affect me when it was trying to annoy me? She uses a glow stick to fight people, and her insults are extremely weak and they still make Yang angry, and she farts a rainbow when she skates. Fuck the pain away. 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 Okay, so that fight was awful. Just undoubtedly awful. Oh, and whatever stupid shit I put in the video just before this wasn't just a random joke that I thought of. That was partly how I actually felt while watching this garbage. This review stopped being fun in the middle of this fight. Fuck this show, fuck its fans, and fuck me for putting me through this lazy, pitiful dreck. I dare someone attempt to argue that this is good. You'd be lucky I don't torture you and your families for days and then force feed your loved ones to you over a very long and disturbing period of time. It's not like your genetic information would create anything worthwhile, so who's gonna stop me?
Oh my gosh, you guys were super crazy awesome! We should definitely party together sometime.
Fuck you, fuck my fans, fuck Rooster Teeth, fuck the stock market, hell, fuck me again. This is like the 6th time this happened so far. Shitty, boring fights should not be getting praise.
Oh, nothing. We're just going to be making a slight alteration to the plan.
Why is Penny's information on Beacon's computer networks? From what the show has shown us, 12 people at most know about Penny being a robot and 4 of them are the girls. So why are they able to access that information? Why wouldn't it be on a top secret computer hidden in a lab deep in some Atlas research and development compound off of the grid where no hacker could ever get to it? I get letting her walk around because she is a sentient being, but the only way this could be more contrived was if Penny dropped her phone and kicked it into their room, and rather than go and get it, she just didn't want to disturb them, and for some reason her information was on that phone as well. There is no reason anymore. No logic, no narrative weight. People learn things when it's convenient to learn things, and no explanation is given. And please don't tell me it was that stupid garbage being talked about earlier. Again, this information should be incredibly hard to get, and if they did get it, you can't wave that off. Oh, and nice repeating of the assets, you lazy dicks. Good thing I can't remember the show you're creating, or else that painting that's been in view the entire shot would have gone unnoticed. This was starting to grate me a whole lot because this season was nothing more than pointless vignettes that only barely added to the mind-boggling narrative, and a lot of almost unwatchable fights. But then it all changed. First, this comment.
Personally, I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, Ozpin may have that mentality because he knows Pyrrha, but Crow doesn't. Nora did all the work in the only fight we have seen them in so far, and by the way, it was a piss-poor fight. Then all of a sudden, this got amazing and quick. You remember all the times Ive and others have complained about how convoluted or simply unexplained the energy system is? We'll throw all of that away as pointless nitpicking because we're about to really shit on this entire thing. So Ozpin's like, remember that fairy tale? Yeah, that's not folklore about what we're supposed to do during the seasons in order to get most out of our time and be as productive over the entire year as we possibly can. Nope, that's real. Then Pyrrha makes the logical conclusion that this was some extreme version of aura or semblance, and then Ozpin looks her dead in the eyes and tells Pyrrha that it wasn't either of those, but instead magic.
God sent me to tell you that the child living inside of your mother is the Antichrist. We must kill it, Tommy. Tommy, this is God's will. Who are you to question it? I'm only his messenger. Here, let me show you something.
Sorry about that, I kinda lost it and had to go to the next logical step, and for some reason that was where the dead go to die, but that's besides the point. So after all that talk about dust and semblance and aura, you suddenly just out of nowhere say magic is a thing and it's super duper important to everything. It makes sense because it gives a reason for the villains to be at Beacon, but at the cost of any narrative cohesion. Well, it's too late now, and frankly I was getting bored of the story's stagnation, so at the very least I'm happy about that. But does this scene do anything right? No. No, it doesn't. In fact, it almost doubles all the initial problems I have with the show because, at least until this point, it was mostly continuations of the same problem over and over again over the last 3 seasons. But this, at the very least, is making me think about different topics. The first question is, why magic of all things? You couldn't have just invented something else to fill that role? We don't know what a semblance is, nor do we have any understanding of what aura is outside of the shield on Master Chief's suit. You have this massive base to work off of, and it allows you almost anything from becoming a Super Saiyan or even a god, and you choose to add something that counteracts all of your world building? If anything, magic is like the one thing this shouldn't be, and yet it is. Then we get the villain's ultimate plan, which is starting to look like they're trying to steal this new magical power, but this brings up a lot of questions. How can you steal this magical power? Now I'd be more willing to believe this if magic was a normal thing, but it's not. And what adds to the confusion is, how do you steal a portion of this power? Another thing that adds to the puzzle is that in just a little bit, the group says that they may have found a way to transfer the power from one person to another because they have created a method of transferring aura from one person to another. Meaning it's a guess at best unless the magic and aura work the same, but then why are they considered two different things? At one point they mention that it's convoluted as to why the power chooses who it chooses, but then we learn it's pretty much just who the current maiden is thinking about when they die, but that seems pretty faulty. Outside of the many different ways they can end up in their current situation without foul play being a factor, what if this person at the edge of death thinks about a loved one or someone close to them who happens to be already dead? You're basically requiring the dying person to think really, really hard about this random person while she's in the middle of her last moments of life. Wouldn't it have been easier to have it be picky and yet still require at least the person's active involvement, and maybe a hand placed on the recipient? It doesn't get around getting part of the power stolen, but it sure helps in making at least some of it sensible. This also starts to break other parts of the narrative because now they know it was Cinder. Maybe I can possibly see how they would have gotten away with the first infiltration, even though it was baffling that no cameras were picking up anything of her ripping her mask off or entering the dance. But there is no way in hell that someone got through all the precautions put into place by a secret organization that has been around for hundreds of years, whose sole purpose is to protect the maidens and is hiding them away so they are not attacked, with the backing of at least 2 governments, and one of those maidens was attacked, and you're telling me that no one has a clue who did it? No, you know exactly who did it, so go kill them. And with that fresh in your mind, if the power transfers to the last person you think about as you die, then have Pyrrha, or anyone else for that matter, kill Cinder. Bam, the power's transferred back without any problems. No, you can't do that. You can't take away one of the best moments in the show just so you can set up some stupid bullshit about her mind being taken over by an illusion. Why? I'm trying so hard to get into the show, trying so desperately hard to forgive all the incompetence and just enjoy the less shitty fighting scenes, and you have to cop out on him getting his leg blown off and punched off, and then you set up some stupid petty shit for the characters to deal with by making it all an illusion? Fuck you. Then I came to realize that even though it wasn't as grand as Mercury getting his leg blown off, it was a pretty solid second. So aside from the complete cop-out, and you know the reason for this is going to be profoundly stupid, like a power pulled right out of the rider's ass involving the Four Maidens' power, this is wonderful. Cinder sacrificed Mercury just to get rid of one, albeit very strong opponent. Both of these characters are wholly unnecessary, but him being an egotistical dick makes this so much better. Yes, I realize that he will probably be able to walk in the very next episode, because it wouldn't be RWBY if it wasn't nearly that stupid, but before that happens, I'm gonna call it. He will be just fine. Oh, and just how retarded is it that in an environment where negative feelings attract a deadly enemy, and just after everyone was told to shut down the broadcast, that you repeat the blatant assault on a defeated opponent where he gets his leg blown off. I know we won't get to see what happened, and neither would Yang, but I'm also saying don't write yourself into corners and take the easy way out. Imagine how much more suspenseful it would have been if we didn't get to know right away that it was all a ruse. But no, Cinder's superpower has to be established right away. And guess what they re-show in its entirety in the next episode? Yep, him getting his leg shot off. You had to put work in to make this even worse, and yet you still did it. You'd think that being lazy would have worked in their favor here, but no, it didn't. Oh, fuck you. The entirety of episode 7 is a flashback explaining how this retarded group got together, and it's a big ol' helping to go get AIDS, Miles, because this is some stupid shit. First things first, Crow saw who attacked her. Second, Crow, even if he didn't return immediately after hearing about the train incident, which is starting to sound extremely stupid, at the very least watched these very same people fight in the tournament before he had the stupid argument in Osmond's office. Meaning that asshole got upset with not being given information promptly when that dick knew exactly who these fuckers were during that argument. It's no longer extremely likely that would have known who the infiltrators are. If any of them have at least 2 neurons to rub together, there is no chance that they didn't know. Kill them right now. Stop being incompetent retards and kill those that are attempting to do some extremely evil shit. And why are the maidens allowed to walk freely around without any bodyguards? Either they have absolutely no supervision and these guys are complete liars, or she does have a bodyguard and yet they're not around. Crow happens to show up to save the day, but why was he there? Or why wasn't he there sooner? We know why. It's because she would have lost her powers completely or not at all given the circumstances, but it's still pretty stupid. But then I realized this made me wrong because she had established plans of things they were going to do after she received ultimate power, and it just so happened that she was stopped. Who pays a bunch of people when you're becoming a supernatural power? And then there's a lot more problems, like the fact that this was almost a year ago, and some of the voice acting was extremely lazy, and a whole host of other problems, but let's move on because it gets worse. So she says this very stupid line.
A headache. 1 mind I can handle, but 2 is a stretch.
Yeah, I count 3 minimum because you are still manipulating Yang. But then you have to count the 2 human guards because there is no blood from a shotgun wound to the fucking leg at close range. So yeah, stop being lazy and just say 5. It's not that much harder than 3, or even 2 if you don't know how to count. But then they basically get away with their plan without any trouble, even though the security should have been increased like 20-fold. But fuck protocol. This clearly advanced floating station designed to hold fighting tournaments doesn't have any sort of infirmary. Better just give the kid over to anyone. Where the hell is that ambulance supposed to go? Vacuo? The closest place is Valve, and guess what? It probably has the exact same hospitals as the massive space station you're currently standing on. Fuck this mindless stupidity.
When you're out on the battlefield, your judgment can become clouded in an instant.
Fuck you. Why are you here lecturing her when you know who has the other half of the maiden's power? Go do your fucking job. But this shit is just to set up this retarded, sad story about how Blake knows that people can change and blah 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 blah. The same shit, just a different episode. The major problem here, outside of the infinitely more obvious one is fuck you Miles and fuck you Carrie, is did you even review what you wrote? Blake said gradual changes, and this was meant as an excuse to justify her mistrust in Yang, but it's mindless. This wasn't even a change over days or even months, it was a change over seconds. You could argue over a day, but that's it, and even that makes you stupid for even thinking about it.
But you're not him, and you've never done anything like this before.
Then why did you even bring it up like it was an option? Killing screen time, perhaps?
RWBY, how you going? RWBY, how you going?
Yeah, that's about it. This is by far the worst episode of RWBY, and who would have guessed that it was another episode 8? But this time it's for a completely different reason. Nothing happens. People talk, but no one mentions anything. No one says anything. The only thing that happens is people worry about things that happened 2 episodes or more ago. And before some of the dumber people watching this attempt to bring something up about me not liking or being able to handle slower scenes, you can go ahead and drown in a shallow pool for that insult because I love extremely slow movies. This has nothing to do with the fact that it's slow. It's about progressing anything. I was asking what was progressed. Pier didn't progress at all. The only thing that happened was she lost composure about the thing that was already eating her up. Yang didn't progress, and if anything, she regressed back to being so desperate to find her mother that it consumes her. The only form of progression that was made was when RWBY was told about the girl's power, but that is irrelevant when you consider the fact that all of their identities are already known, or at the very least should be well known by now. And that means that she used a technique to win in an aggressively one-sided battle that then debunked their entire operation. Fucking hell, I'm not sure which is more condemning, the random retarded shit that Cinder says, or the fact that she hires some of the dumbest underlings. What? Are you fucking kidding me? It took that long for RWBY to process that the girl was behind it, and then after staring at Mercury for more than a few seconds, you then get to the fact that he's standing right in front of you with both of his legs intact? Or are you surprised that 2 of your friends could possibly fight each other in a tournament in which both of them had made it to the final round? And yes, that is what is happening, but it's far worse of a problem than just reacting a little slow to him missing a leg. And why the hell is he there? I get that the developers for RWBY are lazy bastards, so no one's around, but if this show had any semblance of realism, he would have been found out immediately, and whatever plan they had going would have backfired in their face and would have been obvious. And the sad thing is, fixing this problem is extremely easy. Remember that 4th member of the team that was shown fighting with them in the first episode in the tournament based around fighting in a 4-man team? Until it's not? Yeah, why didn't you have her guarding the hallway? Would have made perfect sense. And these ads are in some pretty bad taste. We did not have any respect for your product at all, Rooster Teeth. But, whatever. Fuck you, fuck full screen, fuck your fans. I'm done with this shit, and I will be seeing you in another 8 episodes after you're done raping this damn product. Yay, another end of the video thing that I really don't like doing because it's stupid, and yeah, I'm too lazy to change my format up, yeah. Alright, so if you don't know the dealio by now, this is a list of crap. It's a whole list of crap that I want to do a review on. It's like I have ideas, or at least I am interested in doing reviews of these things. On the other hand, though, real quick, I'm not going to have that much time. Like I said before, I want to put at least 8 hours a weekend into the reviews. So, who knows? Depending on what you guys pick, that might be a video every weekend, or that might be a video every 3 weekends. I don't know. I'm starting to get crunching on time, but whatever. I had to do the RWBY review because, well, I had to do the RWBY review. With that said, again, the next RWBY review won't be until after they release all the episodes. So, haha, I'm gonna not watch the show for a bit. I'm having a little bit of problems here. And the thing I've already started working on. I've actually already got most of the footage for it. I will start doing a review for a big series thing that I'm gonna do. It's one of those betrayal things. Yay! But I think it's gonna be pretty good. I think it's gonna take a lot of work and be a lot of fun. But whatever. So depending on what you guys pick, if you guys pick like something that's going to take me a lot of time, I'm probably just going to do the next review and then do that next. Whereas, or the review, the series review that I want to do, the review of a series, blah blah blah. If it's something short, I'll probably do that first. Like if you pick the if you pick the Dragon Ball AF video, I'm like that could probably be done in like 8 hours max, because it's going to be a pretty short video. But whatever, you guys do what you want. Pick what you want. Don't pick anything at all. Don't know, don't care. I'm just trying to give you the ability to make me do videos. But whatever. End of thing. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. No one would have known that Rooster Teeth gotten so bad. See you guys later.